What's going on, everybody? My name is God's Gunslinger, and welcome to my YouTube channel. This is a big thank you for most of you that are on my Twitch channel, and a way for me to hopefully give back to the rest of the raid community. If you don't know who I am in game, I am Cali GG, and I have a very tiny, small Twitch channel that we've had a lot of fun on over the last month or so since I've started streaming. I've had quite a few viewers request some faction war content on YouTube, so this is our attempt at that. Get it on YouTube, hopefully help out the community. We're going to be starting out with a very hard faction, Demonspawn, if you couldn't tell by the background here. And we're going to be going over something a little bit probably surprising for you, which is completing 21, level 21 on auto with a full epic team. Now, before I get into it, I'm going to go over the champions that we have here, some kind of tips to using them, as well as champions that I found have worked best for me in this faction. Hopefully our goal in the future will be to upload more relatable content for the majority of all of you players out there, so that we can have a showcase of every boss, 7, 14, 21, as well as some of the difficult levels, whether it be a Valkyrie stage or a Sathalia stage, or, you know, level 7 of the boss or level 14 of the boss, going over what their abilities do and, you know, how that's going to affect you beating the stage. So let's get into some of the champions here. We're starting out with our Bae, Krutraxa. She is definitely viable for Faction Wars. She doesn't do a excellent job in level 21. I have her in a build that works, but it is a little bit more difficult to maintain. You have to manual the stages, but she does great damage. She's excellent against defensive champions, because she can hit through their armor. She can, hit really hard using her Curse of Writhing into a dire perforation. And the reason why I have her in lifesteal is so that when she's hitting with those abilities, she's maintaining some sense of survivability throughout the stage. And you'll see that as an ongoing theme with a lot of the champions here. So starting us off with kind of like a DPS champion for Faction Wars is Krutraxa. Not necessary. I'll repeat that. Not necessary. Guys, girls, I know you're probably going to look at my account and you'll be like, oh, well, anyone can do Faction Wars or any content in the game if you have a majority of legendaries and you've pulled a ton of shards. But I think the big point of what I'm going to showcase today is you do not need super overpowered legendaries to beat every stage of Faction Wars. So if you want any tips or ways to build them, if you want to look at my builds or see their masteries, you can join us in my Discord, and you can see all of the builds, all of the masteries, all of the teams that I've put together for other Faction Wars, since it will probably take me some time to put out more content on the other factions that are out there. But let's move on. So we have Krutraxa as one of our main DPS. Drexthar is, a great champion for Faction Wars. He's going to be free to play, premium free to play. Eventually, if you can maintain a consistent level of fighting in 3v3 arenas, eventually you'll be able to unlock Drexthar. Or if you have him pulled, all the better, you can already use him. I have him currently in a Relentless set because I like it's more of 4 cooldowns on his taunt. So anything that provides CC, as I'm sure I will talk about and explain many times in these videos over and over again, is going to be extremely valuable for Faction Wars. Drexthar doesn't bring the greatest kit for that, but he does do some decent damage with his HP burn. Getting off some extra turns can allow him to use his main attack, and with Giant Slayer, that can help do some damage to the boss, do some damage to these enemies that are more endgame, like high level 200 plus with massive defense and health. And then it also lowers the cooldown on his taunt ability, Burning Lash, which is going to provide him, I guess, bringing up his provoke faster is the main thing. And if you can provoke the enemy, that's just less turns for them to use their main abilities. It gives you a better bearing for balancing your team and figuring out your next move. Lord Shazar, not the greatest for Faction Wars. I have tested him out a bit, and his bombs do some significant damage. However, the only thing that I think could make him viable for Faction Wars if you put him in lifesteal gear, because he just does not have the sustainability to survive in stages probably past 16 or 17 when those enemies start to get much more defensive and high health. Now, two of the champions that you're going to see that allow us to auto, again, auto, stage 21, is a duplicate of my Umbral Enchantress here. Now, if you have one from the fusion event not too long ago, I think it was the Gerptuck fusion event. Is that right? You can correct me down below. I don't know. It was one of the fusions recently. We had access to getting Umbral Enchantress. I was able to get her through the champion, I think it was the champion training event at the time, or it may have been a champion chase event where she was placed in there as a reward. And then I pulled one on a void event, which allowed me to kind of play around with them and use two, which was the main key to allowing me to auto this stage. And there is a little bit of setup required. So on the first stage, what I do is I start out everyone normal on auto. My first Umbral Enchantress will throw out her provoke on everyone, which lasts for 2 turns. I then essentially auto everyone except when it comes to my second Umbral Enchantress's turn. When that happens, I take it off auto. I usually will either use her block debuffs ability, which is her Immolate, on her first turn or her second turn. It's not extremely important which turn of the first 2 you do it on because the enemy is going to be taunted by the first Umbral Enchantress. But I do this to split their cooldowns. So they're both on a 5-turn provoke. Their provoke is on a 5-turn cooldown. And by spreading this cooldown out, it allows them to rotate through their abilities, as well as having this on a cooldown so that when one of them has their unkillable come off, which is one of the key factors of this ability, it'll allow them to throw their Immolate out again on auto, which you'll see future in the stages once we pull up the video of me running the faction war. Other key champions to note are Padma. Padma is excellent for stripping buffs when buffs do go up. She does solid damage. She has a ton of survivability due to her being a defensive champion. And to make her just a little bit more survivable, I have her in Immortal gear with decent to high defense and HP, but mostly high accuracy and high resist. The accuracy and resist you will see will play a part for the waves, but the resist is mostly for the boss in this stage, which has the ability of placing True Fear on our champions, which we do not want to happen, or at least we want to mitigate it as much as possible. So flowing through these, Nazana is probably the key to this faction. She is unbelievable for Demonspawn. She puts a massive shield on herself with Unholy Contract, probably about 25 to 30% of her health, and then she provides an allied protection with that to the rest of her team, which is going to prevent them from essentially just dying to the Valk stage when the Errol is doing a massive amount of damage and the Valkyries are throwing out their Stand United. One key thing to note, again, go to my Discord, you can see all these builds, but to show you here, you want to make sure that she has Blast Proof, and you want to verify that she does not have Selfless Defender. If you have Selfless Defender on her, or what is it, Bulwark, she's going to basically kill herself by putting Unholy Contract on. And when those Valkyries start spinning up their Stand United, regardless if you have Immolate on them or not, the amount of damage they do because of their level will just destroy Nazana. So great champion for the Unholy Contract, but just make sure she doesn't have those 2 masteries on her, or you're just going to go squish. I've tested her out in a bunch of different sets, and actually more recently I moved back to a stun set because it just provides the most amount of survivability through CC that you're going to get out of this faction. So you could run 2 allures, and I'll show you my allure next if you do not have Nizana. And you could actually run them both in stun set, and they do an excellent job at keeping, and really for any stage, keeping the waves stunned up, locked up, especially because they're lowering that turn meter. But Nizana, her abilities are all AoE. So she has Dark Lance, which attacks all enemies, and she has Steel Breaker, which attacks all enemies. And then she just has Unholy Contract, which is not going to affect anyone except her team. So putting her in stun gives her a decently high chance at stunning the enemy team. And if you noticed my masteries, I gave her Fearsome Presence, which gives her another, 5% chance at stunning. So I built her like that, more for CC and just keeping the team alive. As you can see, she has a ton of health. She's sitting at 85,000 health. Her defense, I would love it to be higher, but with the resistance I was pushing, I did not have the gear to keep her speed, at a okay level and maintain high defense with the amount of health I had. So I kind of had to pick and choose there. But as you can see, constant theme with a team like this that does not have a dedicated healer. Everyone pretty much has like one set or more of Immortal. And then for our last champion, we have Allure. So the first thing you'll probably notice about my Allure is she is not built for damage, but she does have Lifesteal on, which is going to give her survivability. She has a good amount of accuracy, which is going to provide that turn meter manipulation, as well as possible decreased defense of 30% on the enemies, and maybe putting a sleep on them as well. So she's there again. CC, that is the main theme here. CC, CC, CC. That is going to allow you to live, getting that crowd control. Her crit rate standard over 100. If I could have made this perfect, I would have. But for her speed and the amount of health she has, this allows her to be extremely survivable, especially with the Valks. If anyone was to die on this team, it would probably not be Allure first. It would probably be Umbral Enchantress taking all the hits with her Provoke, or maybe Nizana getting unlucky with her Unholy Contract and dying from a bunch of hits with Allied Protection. But giving Allure a decent amount of health here and the lifesteal provides her with an insane amount of sustainability. So let's get out of this. I'm going to show you the index real quick for some other honorable mentions. Of course, if you have Duchess or Kaimar, they are going to make this faction extremely easy for you. I am, as you can see, not lucky enough to have them. So I made do with a different team, and I challenged myself a little bit to show that it can be done with all epics. However, those are 2 great champions. Even our big boy Mordu Macabre can be pretty good against the Valkyries because of his ability Peril. Ixelmore can definitely be good as well. I mean, he just has a really amazing kit. Ally Protection, increased defense. He can heal himself. He places Ignite on the enemy, HP Burn on the enemy, which is going to help you considerably. And then for all of these other epics, they're really just not that great. For lower and below level 16, you can get away with using a lot of these champions here. But once you get above those levels, you're going to be looking for champions in their kit, and this applies to many factions. Champions in their kit that have some sort of CC ability or turn meter manipulation or an ability to provide allied protection, shields, or healing, kind of grouped together as one support ability there, or just do massive damage by evading block damage or defense, ignore defense abilities. I would really like to use Tynix Hateflower, which you probably will see in a future video, but I haven't had the opportunity to level her up and test her out yet, but her kit does look like it could be a lot of fun for Faction Wars, so stay tuned in the future for an even more free-to-play friendly, relatable team, but we'll get to that in the future. So I'm going to, I think we're going to transition over now to the video, and I'm going to shut up for a bit, and you guys can just watch the faction go. And before I go, just make sure that below you guys check out my Discord. You can get all these builds in my Discord. You can talk to me directly if you guys need anything. We have a bunch of smart people in there that are happy to help you out. We're starting to build a great community. And again, we're all in it for fun. I want to help you succeed. So if we can do that with this video and maybe some future videos, then that's my accomplishment right there alone. I'll have all my postings for social media in the bottom so you guys can follow me there. And I would really appreciate it if you subscribe. If you want to turn on the bell for notifications, you'll see when my next Faction War video comes out. And that's pretty much it, guys. Enjoy the video. Thank you. Cali GG. Out.